Are you here now? It's a simple, yet powerful question. Many times we live our lives so wrapped up in thoughts about the past or worries about the future that we forget about the present. Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, taught a lesson that echoes to this day. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Focus your mind on the present. But how does this apply to our modern lives? In a world that never stops, we are constantly surrounded by distractions and pressures. The key to living a fulfilling life might lie in something very simple, yet transformative: learning to be present. And that's exactly what Zen Buddhism teaches us. Have you ever stopped to think about what your life would be like if you could truly live in the now, without being trapped by what has already happened or anxious about what's to come? Imagine how it would feel to experience each moment with total presence, free from distractions. If that sparks your curiosity, stick around. Together, we will explore how these simple, yet powerful lessons from Zen Buddhism can completely transform the way you experience life. What comes next could change your perspective forever. Now, let's dive into this concept. At the heart of Zen Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence, the idea that nothing in life is permanent. But why is this notion so important? Let's reflect on it for a moment. Imagine the beauty of a cherry blossom tree in bloom. Its pink petals, soft and perfect, fill the landscape with color and life. But within a few weeks, those petals fall, covering the ground and slowly decomposing. What makes this moment of blooming so special is not its permanence, but precisely its temporary nature. Impermanence is a fundamental principle in Buddhism and Zen. Buddha taught that all things are in constant flux, from our thoughts to the changing seasons. A famous example comes from the story of Kisagatami, a woman who lost her only son. Desperate, she sought out Buddha, asking for help to bring her son back to life. He instructed her to find a mustard seed from a household that had never known death. She found none. The lesson was clear: death and change are inevitable, and accepting this reality is the first step toward the liberation from suffering. When you understand that nothing is permanent, something curious happens. You begin to appreciate the moments you live more deeply. Instead of desperately clinging to what has passed or worrying about what is to come, you open yourself to the now. This is the essence of Zen, to live the present moment fully. And how do you do that? How can you truly be present in a world full of distractions? The practice of mindfulness is what helps bring our minds back to the present. Mindfulness isn't something complex. It's simply the act of being fully aware of what you are doing, whether it's drinking a cup of tea, walking, or even breathing. Imagine this. You're walking in a park. The gentle wind touches your skin. The scent of flowers fills the air. But instead of enjoying these moments, your mind is occupied with work, with what someone said to you yesterday, or with what you need to do tomorrow. This is how we live most of the time. In Zen, there's a famous story about a master who asked his student, "Did you hear the sound of the rain?" The student replied that he did. The master then said, "When walking, walk. When sitting, sit. When you hear the rain, listen to the rain." The lesson is clear: be present. In every action, in every moment. Mindfulness helps us break free from this state of constant distraction. It teaches us to appreciate what's around us and our own existence. A simple sip of tea can turn into a moment of pleasure and gratitude if we are fully present in it. Modern research confirms the benefits of mindfulness. Studies show that regular mindfulness practice can reduce stress, improve mental health, and even increase our focus. It seems like the perfect antidote to the fast-paced rhythm of modern life, doesn't it? Another central teaching of Zen is detachment. How often do we find ourselves trapped by the desire to control outcomes, to ensure that things turn out exactly as we planned? But what can we really control? Detachment in Zen doesn't mean apathy or giving up. It's about letting go of the idea that we can or should control everything around us. What we can truly control is only our attitude and effort. Everything else is beyond our reach. Buddha taught that attachment is one of the main causes of human suffering. He told stories to illustrate this. In one of them, a man pursued happiness relentlessly, clinging to material things and temporary pleasures. But instead of finding peace, he only accumulated anxiety and suffering because everything he valued was subject to impermanence. The practice of detachment begins with understanding that life has its own flow, like a river. Trying to hold water with your hands only causes frustration. When we accept that things change and let go of our rigid expectations, we find a sense of freedom. This doesn't mean we stop caring or stop making plans. On the contrary, it means we act with total dedication, but without becoming attached to the results. It's like planting a tree. You do your best to nurture the soil and water it, but in the end, you don't control its growth. It will grow at its own pace. In a world that constantly bombards us with information and noise, Zen invites us to value silence. But not just as the absence of sound. In Zen, silence is a space where we can hear ourselves, our inner wisdom. There is an ancient practice in Zen called silent meditation, or Zazen. In this state, the practitioner sits in silence, observing the breath and thoughts without judgment. This type of meditation doesn't seek to control the mind or impose a forced state of calm. Instead, it allows the silence to reveal what often hides beneath the layers of incessant thoughts. A story about Buddha perfectly illustrates the power of silence. One day, Buddha stood before a crowd to give a sermon. But instead of speaking, he simply held up a flower in his hands and remained silent. The crowd was confused. Only one disciple, Mahakashyapa, smiled. He understood what Buddha was teaching. Sometimes silence conveys more wisdom than any words. Silence offers us a pause to reflect, to reconnect with ourselves. Amid so much noise, perhaps the wisdom we seek is waiting to emerge in the silence. The practice of compassion is one of the pillars of Buddhism and Zen. Not just compassion for others, but for ourselves. How often are we our own harshest critics, judging ourselves more harshly than we would ever judge someone else? Zen teaches that to practice true compassion, we must first start with ourselves. When we stop judging ourselves so harshly, we open space for kindness and forgiveness, both for ourselves and for others. There is an inspiring story about Buddha that demonstrates the power of compassion. One day, he encountered Angulimala, a notorious murderer who terrorized entire villages. Instead of confronting him with violence, Buddha approached him with calm and compassion. This disarmed Angulimala, who ended up converting and dedicating the rest of his life to helping others. Compassion is transformative. When we are kind to ourselves, that kindness radiates outward, touching the lives of others. And it doesn't need to be something grand. Sometimes small acts of compassion, like listening to someone attentively or offering a genuine smile, can have a profound impact. Additionally, research in positive psychology confirms that practicing compassion activates areas of the brain linked to satisfaction and happiness. Compassion not only improves the well-being of those around us, but also increases our own happiness and mental health. What if you could accept life exactly as it is, without resistance? Often, we fight against reality, believing that things should be different. This creates frustration and suffering. But Zen teaches that by accepting life as it is, we find deep peace. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up. On the contrary, it's a form of empowerment. When we stop wasting our energy fighting what we cannot change, we have more clarity to act effectively on what we can influence. Buddha told a story about a man who was struck by an arrow. Instead of seeking immediate help, the man began to question where the arrow came from, who shot it, and why. While he got stuck in these questions, he wasn't treating the wound. The moral is simple. When we resist reality and try to control it, we don't address what really needs attention. Acceptance teaches us to flow with life, instead of trying to swim against it. This doesn't mean we accept everything passively, but that by accepting circumstances as they are, we find the strength to act with clarity and effectiveness. In Zen, there is a powerful teaching about not attaching to results. We are used to measuring our worth and success by the results we achieve. But Zen encourages us to change this mentality. Imagine you are creating something like a piece of art. You invest time, energy, and love into it. However, If your focus is solely on the final result, how others will perceive it, or if it will turn out perfect, you lose the connection to the process. Zen teaches us that the true value lies in the action, not the result. This frees us from stress and anxiety. After all, there are many variables we cannot control. We can do our best, but the final result may depend on circumstances beyond our reach. When we learn to detach from the result, we find incredible freedom. And, paradoxically, it is precisely when we are most detached that we tend to be more effective in our actions. We live in a world where we are constantly encouraged to seek more success, more money, more status. But Zen reminds us that true happiness is not found in great achievements, but in the simple things in life. Think of recent moments of joy. Perhaps it was something as simple as the sound of rain or the laughter of a child. These small moments, when noticed and appreciated, can bring more happiness than any grand achievement. This practice of finding joy in simple things is at the heart of Zen. When we are fully present in the moment, we begin to notice the richness that surrounds us. A cup of tea, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. All of these can be sources of joy and gratitude if we are open to noticing them. In Zen, we do not seek happiness in a distant future or in great feats. Instead, we find joy in the small things that make up our everyday lives. Intuition is a powerful tool that we often overlook. In Zen, it is considered a form of inner wisdom that arises when we quiet the mind and connect with the present moment. Instead of relying solely on logic, Zen encourages us to listen to that quiet voice that emerges in moments of calm. When we trust our intuition, we open up space for decisions that are more aligned with who we truly are. Intuition isn't magic, but a form of knowledge that comes from our accumulated experience and a deep connection with the present. Finally, Zen values solitude as an opportunity for growth and introspection. In a society that often associates solitude with sadness, Zen shows us that being alone can be a powerful way to reconnect with ourselves. Solitude in the context of Zen is not isolation. It's a time of silence and reflection, where we can distance ourselves from the noise of the world and truly listen to what's inside us. In these moments of solitude, we find clarity, peace, and a deeper connection with our inner self. By embracing solitude, we become stronger and more connected to the world around us. Are you ready to live more fully in the present? To embrace impermanence, practice detachment, and find joy in the little things? Zen Buddhism teaches us that the key to a rich and meaningful life has always been right here in the present. Why not start now? If these ideas resonated with you and you feel inspired to live more mindfully, don't forget to give this video a like. It helps us reach more people who, like you, are seeking a more fulfilling and conscious life. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell to stay updated on more content like this. Together, let's keep exploring ways to live with more ease and depth. See you in the next video.